My mommy wouldn't get up. And when you hear your grandbaby say that, it's like the hardest thing in the world.
One of the worst I've worked in my 53 years in law enforcement.
This is Siobhan Murray, a 24-year-old mother of one, and her friends Sharday Trevino and Victoria Pugh, three best friends whose lives would be tragically cut short while on a simple errand to pick up a child at her grandmother's house. On the afternoon of July 14, 2024, just after 5:40 p.m., Holly Springs police received a frantic call reporting multiple gunshots fired at a residence on West Woodward Avenue. However, nothing could have prepared the officers for the nightmare that awaited them at the scene. In the driveway, beside a black Hyundai Elantra, they found the bodies of three young women, lifeless and cold, each shot point blank in a cold, calculated execution.
She's seen everything. She was in the car. And she says her mommy is dead. And she says Sade is dead and Vic is dead. She said all the time.
What was meant to be an ordinary custody exchange had turned into an ambush, a ruthless attack that left three friends dead in the blink of an eye. But before we get to that tragic moment when these women's lives would be taken in cold blood, let me take you back to where this heartbreaking story started. The story begins with 23-year-old Siobhan Elise Murray, lovingly known as Mookie by family and friends. She was a pretty young woman whose bright future would be tragically cut short by someone no one could have imagined. Originally from San Diego, California, Siobhan moved to Memphis in her younger years, where she eventually graduated from Ridgeway High School. Siobhan was known for being a kind-hearted, driven woman who had big dreams for her future. She had a baby on the way. Everything seemed to be falling into place for her, or so she thought. Siobhan had a close-knit circle of friends, which included 24-year-old Sharday Olanda Patires Trevino and 23-year-old Victoria Pugh, two friends who sadly would be part of the tragic event that would not only take Siobhan's life, but theirs too. Sharday and Victoria were a huge part of Siobhan's life. The three had known each other since high school, and their friendship only grew stronger over the years. They proved to those who knew them that family isn't always defined by blood, but by the bonds people choose to nurture and cherish. All three women had their bright futures to look forward to, but heartbreakingly, those dreams would never be fulfilled. Despite the challenges Siobhan faced, including balancing her education and motherhood, she remained optimistic about her future and her child's future. Siobhan had initially dreamed of becoming a veterinarian, but later decided to pursue a career as an animal laboratory technician, driven by her desire to build a better life for her child. Her life, however, would take a turn after meeting Nathan Stewart, the father of her child. What started as a relationship like any other soon spiraled into something dark. Nathan, a 27-year-old from Holly Springs, Mississippi, had a history of violent behavior that would soon lead to the unimaginable. Nathan, just like Siobhan, was a student at Southwest Community College, but he still lived with his family. At first, Nathan came across as charming and full of life, the kind of student who drew people in with his energy, which was no different with Siobhan. Their connection was immediate. They shared laughter, light-hearted moments, and a closeness that quickly grew into something deeper. Their relationship seemed effortless, two young people chasing dreams side by side, and before long, things became more serious. In 2011, Siobhan discovered she was pregnant. The news, though unexpected, filled both of them with excitement. The thought of building a family together brought joy and hope, even as their plans shifted dramatically. They believed they were ready to face the challenges together. But beneath the happiness, Siobhan carried another burden. Months before the pregnancy, cracks had already begun to show in their relationship. Arguments became frequent, and Nathan's temper flared over the smallest disagreements. His behavior grew increasingly aggressive, leaving Siobhan unsettled. Those closest to her began to worry, sensing that her safety and well-being were at risk. Siobhan knew deep down that this wasn't the life she wanted, not for herself or for the child she was carrying. The constant strain and conflict were wearing her down, and eventually she made the painful choice. She made a choice to walk away from the relationship. Her family and friends felt a wave of relief, hopeful that she had finally broken free from someone whose troubling behavior had long worried them. While they had never supported her relationship with Nathan, their excitement over the baby was undeniable. They looked forward to welcoming the child with open arms. Yet, behind the scenes, Nathan wasn't ready to let go, and his decision would soon take not just one life, but 3 lives. Siobhan eventually welcomed her baby girl, whom she named Nalea Nalise Stewart. To her, Nalea wasn't just a child, she was the center of her universe. From the very first moment, the little girl brought peace and joy into her mother's world. Even her birth carried a symbolic touch. She often flashed a peace sign, a small but powerful gesture that seemed to embody the serenity she would bring to everyone around her. Friends and family described Siobhan as fiercely devoted, a mother willing to sacrifice anything to give her daughter the best life possible. She worked tirelessly, determined to build a brighter future for them both. And as expected, her journey was never walked alone. Siobhan leaned on her 2 closest friends who stood by her through triumphs and hardships alike. And little Nalea was surrounded by love too. Her 2 aunties adored her, treating her as if she were their own child, cherishing every moment spent together. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, the very bonds meant to protect and nurture would ultimately be tied to a tragedy that claimed 3 lives. Still, Siobhan's path was complicated. In 2021, a few months before the arrival of Nalea, Nathan was accused of attacking and stabbing Siobhan's mother, Rita Finney. Not only that, he even harmed Rita's dog before proceeding to steal her car. But just moments later, it was revealed that Nathan had sent threatening texts to not only Siobhan, but also her mother, promising to unlive them both. But this wasn't a one-off situation. Rita later shared that this wasn't the first time Nathan had assaulted her. It had happened on more than one occasion. She even had scars she claimed were from those encounters. But that was only the beginning. In same year, an arrest warrant was issued for Nathan after they had reported his threats. Charges were filed and restraining orders were put in place. What Siobhan didn't know was Nathan had a deadly plan in his sleeves, and soon he would unleash them. Fast forward after the baby's birth, Siobhan still allowed Nathan to remain in her life. Out of compassion and hope, she wanted her daughter to know her father and his family. She tried to co-parent, believing it was the right thing for Nalea. If only she knew that would be the biggest mistake of her life. It was on the evening of July 14, 2024, that little Nalea's world would be shattered. That night, Siobhan, along with her friends Sharday and Victoria, drove to Holly Springs to pick up her child, Nalea, who had been staying with Nathan's mother. What should have been a routine visit quickly escalated. Siobhan and Nathan had an argument outside of the home. A neighbor reported hearing gunshots, and moments later, the unimaginable happened. Nathan, in a fit of rage, opened fire on Siobhan, Sharday, and Victoria, executing them all at point-blank range. The massacre took place in front of Siobhan's 3-year-old daughter, who witnessed everything from the back seat of the car. In a cowardly act, Nathan then turned the gun on himself. Authorities arrived on the scene to find the bodies of the victims, all of them with gunshot wounds to the head. It was immediately clear that something unimaginable had taken place. Yet the nightmare was far from over. As officers worked to piece together the scene and identify the victims, faint sounds began to emerge inside the vehicle, soft whispers that caught them off guard. At first, they thought someone might still be alive. They checked each of the 3 bodies for a pulse, but found none. Then, as they searched beneath the back seats, they made a shocking discovery. On the floorboard, hidden from view and covered in blood, lay the body of Siobhan's 3-year-old daughter. Her wide, vacant eyes stared ahead, frozen in shock, as though she had just witnessed something beyond comprehension. She had survived a brutal ambush, one that had stolen her mother's life. Police quickly pulled her from the car, checking for injuries. Miraculously, she was unharmed physically, but her expression told another story entirely.
We are beginning with breaking news tonight at 10 o'clock. 4 people are dead after a shooting in Holly Springs, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. I'm Shay Arthur. County officials there telling us the call came in just before 7 tonight off West Woodward Avenue. That's where WREG's Alan Self is live for us tonight. And Alan, we can see some of that crime scene tape behind you, some flashing lights. What have you learned out there?
Shay, the Marshall County Sheriffs tell us 3 women and 1 man were all killed in a drive-by shooting here in Holly Springs. They say a child around 5 years old was in the vehicle that was shot, but thankfully unharmed. However, both of her parents were killed. The mayor of Holly Springs, Sharon Gibson, is also here on the scene. She offered her condolences, but declined to comment on camera. One witness suggested a domestic dispute led to the shooting, but family members and bystanders are too shaken to speak on camera. The scene is still active with police and ambulances remaining at the intersection of West Woodward Avenue and Sunset Acres Road. So far, no one has been charged, and the motive for the shooting is unclear. We'll give you those updates on this situation as the information comes in. For your news leader in Holly Springs, I'm Alan Self, WREG News Channel 3.
The community was left reeling from the gruesome crime. Siobhan's family, friends, and even neighbors could hardly process what had happened.
I heard 4 to 5 succession of shots, and within a split second later, there was another 4 to 5 shots. I don't know, somewhere between 6 to 8 to 10 shots rang out.
The account from an eyewitness tonight in Holly Springs, Mississippi, about 40 miles southeast of Memphis. The town in shock over shootings last night that killed 4 people, including a mother with a baby. Thanks for joining us. I'm Richard Ransom. Police say all of the victims were in their 20s, and tonight they are searching for the suspect or suspects responsible in what's described as the worst violence that town has seen in decades. Our Desmond Nugent is live at the Holly Springs Police Headquarters tonight. Desmond, what are authorities saying about what happened?
Richard, the Holly Springs Police Chief tells me this is the single worst incident that he's ever seen in nearly 30 years that he's been with the department. The Holly Springs Police said this quadruple shooting happened on just before 7 Sunday night on West Woodward Avenue, which runs parallel to US 78. The Holly Springs Police Chief Daryl Bowen says 3 women were found dead inside of a black Hyundai Elantra with gunshot wounds, and a 4th victim, a man, was found dead outside that car. Chief Bowen said what makes this especially heartbreaking for the community is the lone survivor was a little 3-year-old girl whose mother was dead inside of the car. Joe Wilson, who knew some of the victims killed, is still coming to terms with this loss.
Well, I feel devastated by it. You know, I used to take them to school in the mornings, you know, when they were kids back when they were 5 and 6 or 7. If they missed a school bus, they would ring my bell and ask me, Mr. Wilson, would you take us to school? And I would. Very outstanding mom, you know. Back in the day, she was a single mom working 2 jobs and stuff. And I think she was able to slow down now with 1, but she's always worked and always took care of her family.
Siobhan, Sharday, and Victoria were all vibrant, young women with so much life ahead of them. And now they were gone, all because of Nathan's violent outburst. These weren't just victims. They were daughters, friends, and dreamers. Victoria's journey makes that clear. Victoria Pugh, known lovingly as Vicky to those closest to her, was born on April 3, 2001 in Memphis, Tennessee. Gentle, empathetic, and wise beyond her years, she carried a quiet strength that drew people in. From childhood, she felt called to serve others, and her dream of becoming a mental health therapist reflected her nurturing spirit. But Vicky had a rare gift. She listened without judgment, making those around her feel truly seen. Friends and classmates often turned to her for guidance, comfort, and understanding. Those who knew her often said she had a calming presence, the kind of person who could ease tension in a room simply by being there. Her desire to counsel wasn't just ambition, it was deeply personal. She drew from her own struggles, transforming them into a source of healing for others. Her compassion extended beyond words. Vicky embraced creativity through wig making, a craft that showcased her patience and artistry. For her, it was another way to uplift others, helping them feel confident and beautiful. Loved ones admired her kindness, and her bravery shone brightest the day she saved her best friend's daughter during the tragic shooting. That protective instinct was part of her very essence, something she shared with her closest friend, Sharday Trevino. Sharday, born in St. Louis in 2000 before moving to Memphis, was described as a radiant presence in her family's life. Selfless and determined, she pursued a career in healthcare, completing her certified medical assistant training with a flawless 4.0 GPA. Her mother often spoke proudly of her intelligence and drive. But Sharday wasn't only defined by academics. She was loyal to the core. Her bond with Siobhan and Vicky was unbreakable, built on years of shared laughter, dreams, and unwavering support. Together, they envisioned futures filled with purpose and success, always lifting one another up. Tragically, the same love that bound these women together in life would also unite them in death. Their tragic shooting sparked a heated family feud that only intensified with the aftermath. While Siobhan's family mourned their loss, Nathan's family responded in a way that many found deeply troubling. Some of Nathan's relatives, in a shocking display of denial, posted "Long live Nathan" on social media, a sentiment that deeply hurt the families of the victims. The insensitive posts led to an outpouring of grief and outrage from the victims' families, with many questioning Nathan's upbringing and the lack of accountability within his family. But amidst the anger and grief, the focus remained on the 3 innocent lives lost and the haunting reality of what the little girl had witnessed. Siobhan's daughter, now without her mother and surrounded by such devastation, was left to process the trauma of losing both her parents, one to violence and the other to his own reckless actions. Siobhan's mother, Rita, was left to grapple with the brutal reality of her daughter's death. She had already been through so much, raising her daughter, dealing with Nathan's erratic behavior, and trying to keep her family intact. Nothing could prepare her for the gut-wrenching pain she felt as she was notified that her beloved daughter had been taken so senselessly.
My mommy wouldn't get up. My mommy wouldn't get up. And when you hear your grandbaby say that, it's like the hardest thing in the world.
Her grief was not just for the loss of Siobhan, but also for her granddaughter, who would now grow up without a mother, forced to live with the memories of that fateful night. The haunting words of the 3-year-old, "Mommy's gone, Vicky's gone, Sharday is gone," played over in Rita's mind, knowing that this innocent child would never truly understand why her mother was taken so violently. The very fact that Siobhan's 3-year-old daughter was forced to witness the murder of her mother and the violent end of her family was one of the most heartbreaking aspects of this tragedy. Her young mind, unable to fully comprehend the horrors she had seen, clung to the only comfort she could find, the hope that her mother would wake up. In her innocence, the child likely didn't understand the permanence of death. All she knew was that her mother, her protector, would never come to her again. Victoria Pugh, one of Siobhan's best friends, was able to shield the child in the back seat of the car, using her own body to protect the young girl from harm during the shooting.
The officer did tell me that whoever was in the back, shield her under the seat.
While Victoria herself tragically lost her life, her sacrifice meant that the child survived. This small act of bravery in the face of such horror was one of the only rays of light in an otherwise dark tale. The entire community was left reeling in shock. Holly Springs, typically a quiet town where most residents knew each other by name, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight due to this appalling act of violence. Locals couldn't understand how something so violent could happen so close to home. The news of the shooting sent shockwaves through Memphis as well, particularly within the small group of friends who had known the victims for years. The investigation into the motive behind Nathan's actions revealed a disturbing history of abuse, manipulation, and control. Although there had been previous reports of Nathan's violent tendencies, including a past accusation of threatening to harm Siobhan and her mother, it seemed that the warning signs had been ignored. Despite a restraining order and an arrest for stalking and domestic violence in April 2024, Nathan's obsessive and violent behavior escalated rather than subsided. Siobhan had attempted to distance herself from Nathan by breaking off their relationship, but this only fueled his rage. His desire to regain control over Siobhan, particularly over their shared custody of their daughter, became the driving force behind his actions. Nathan was obsessed with keeping Siobhan in his life, and when she refused to comply with his demands, the situation turned deadly. The tragic irony of this story lies in the fact that Siobhan had already been trying to create a better life for her daughter, moving on from a toxic relationship. She was committed to her education and her dreams, motivated by her desire to provide a brighter future for her child. Yet, despite all her efforts to break free from Nathan's abuse, her desire for peace was met with the most violent of responses. The loss of 23-year-old Siobhan Elise Murray, 24-year-old Sharday Ulanda Patrice Trevino, and 23-year-old Victoria Pugh will forever leave a hole in the hearts of those who loved them. And the young girl who survived the attack will continue to live with the haunting memories of that fateful night. This crime, though seemingly over, leaves a lasting impact that will ripple through the lives of the victims' families for generations to come. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.